Hey, Aaron from GameEnthus.com here once again, taking a look at a prototype for Factory Floor. Factory Floor is a polyomino tile placement game from 1 to 4 players, where players are trying to build a factory floor to produce the most products, be the most productive, be the best at manufacturing, place tiles in the right places, have fun playing a game. This is a prototype of Factory Floor. Should be coming to Kickstarter shortly. Factory Floor is published by Space Duck Games. I think I already said 1 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, and takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play. Let's see what it's about. These are the components of Factory Floor. You have 4 Factory Floor boards, 1 per player. An early set of these solo mode challenges. I'll get into that a little bit later. You have a scoring board here, 48 meeples, 12 per player. You also have some storeroom tiles. These are to fill in gaps. You have scoring markers, first player token. Columns. Columns are used in a more advanced version of the game where you would place columns. Everybody would decide how many columns they want to place on their factory floor. And these are areas where you cannot build anything. Increases the challenge. And then you have 120 different tetromino shaped factory tiles comprised of production line tiles, meaning where things are actually produced, which get increased when workers are placed there. Quality control, which don't score in and of themselves.
What would you say you do here?
But at the end of the game, and then the brownish yellow tiles are staff room tiles. These are the places where workers will go initially until they are placed into a production tile. You have 120 of those, so it's a lot of them. Let me show you how the game works. So this will be a 2-player setup. We have a scoreboard here. Both players will start out on 0. The game takes place over a series of rounds, Monday through Friday. We have an AM shift, a PM shift, and a production phase. You can do 4 things on your turn. You can place a tile, hire a worker. You can essentially, I guess, let a worker go or adjust your staffing. And that enables you to move a tile that's already been placed to another area. But of course, that worker goes back to the staffing room, to the pool where the workers are. You can also forfeit your turn if you wish. So those are the 4 things you can do. So this player will be the first player. After the first round of turns, then it would shift over to the other players, or if there are more people playing, up to 4, it would move around. And the storerooms, I don't know if I mentioned that, storerooms kind of just fill in gaps. Storerooms are the only piece outside of the columns piece that just make the game harder. I'm going to just be playing the base game. The storage rooms enable you to fill in a 2-space gap, which you can't really do anywhere else because none of the other pieces are just 2 spaces. So we start off on the shift. So in terms of tiles, so there's 8 of them, 2, 4, 6, 8. So 2 players, 4 tiles by default, 2 more per player. So this player is going to go first. So like I said, there's 4 things you can do. Take a tile and place it is one thing. You can hire a worker. You can adjust your staffing. Puts a worker back in the pool, but also lets you shift an already placed tile to be somewhere else. Or you can forfeit your turn. So I'm going to take this tile here and place it right there. Now it's the second player's turn. They're going to take this one and they're going to place that right here. Now you would loop back around, so the second player would take another turn and then it will come back to me. So they place that there, and the second player is going to go with some quality near their production line tile. Quality. Probably going to want some workers at some point, so I'm going to get a staffing room. And another key point is, in order to populate a production line, the staffing room has to be adjacent to the production line. That was the AM shift. So now we would shift over to the afternoon and evening shift. These tiles will go away. All right, now we're in the PM shift, and now this player is going to be the first player. So like they're probably going to want some workers at some point. So they're going to put a staffing room right there. Now it's this player's turn. They are probably going to want. They already have staffing. Well, let's say that they're going to hire some folks. So they're going to hire some employees. I'll put them down this way so you can see them a little bit better. They're going to hire some employees to come in so they can actually get some work done. Without the employees, then what do you do? All right, and then they have a second action, and they are going to put some quality. Okay, and now back to this player. They are also going to, they have one more turn, so they're going to also hire some staff, because it's not like an empty factory that won't produce very much. And now we move over to the production phase. So the production phase, workers who are in the storeroom can now populate the actual production line. And you see this piece here, there's only space for 2 workers. So you would just populate space there. You can only put in 2 workers into a storeroom at once. I could just take 1 worker from here and just put them in there and maybe keep this one here, but I don't see the point in doing that right now. So I'm just going to fully populate this production line. They're going to also populate this production line tile. And then we would tally up what our points are. This tile is worth 5 total. It produces 3, and there's also 2 workers on it, so it's worth 5. It's worth 10 points. And this tile here is worth 4 by default, plus 2 workers is 6. Then you would shift over to Tuesday for the morning shift, take the tiles away, set out 8 new ones, and the game will continue like that. So there's some end game bonuses in the multiplayer game where you get 10 more points if you have the single largest staffing room. Single largest meaning you've obviously combined adjacent staffing rooms. And if you're the largest one, then you get 10 more points. If you have the largest quality, you get 10 more points as well. If you have the most workers in on production tiles, you would earn 7 more. You earn 7 more points as a bonus. And if you produce the most goods in your factory, you'd earn 5 more points. It doesn't take an action, but on your turn, you can always take a storeroom and just sort of slot it in somewhere. If towards the end of the game you've filled things out a bit, but you have some gaps, because at the end of the game, every blank space that you have on your factory floor, you lose a point for. So it's wise to use the storerooms to sort of mitigate the losses that you might have for empty spaces on your factory floor. And these are limited. Once these are gone, they're gone. So I'd suggest using them very wisely when you see there's an area where you're probably not going to get a tile to fit in there. So the points can really add up to help you defeat your enemies and become royalty amongst those who produce and manufacture goods. That's how this prototype of Factory Floor from Space Duck Games plays, at least in the multiplayer mode. And you should see it on screen where I'm going to show you how the solo mode works, where you be taking one of the boards and it kind of describes a scenario for you and tells you specifically what tiles you are looking for. So the scenario is pretty fun, where it gives you a layout to set up and where to put workers, and then you're going to use these pieces to fit in where everything is. You should be able to see this on a larger screen somewhere on the screen if I've done my homework. So that's how solo mode works. There's only a handful of these scenarios they have now, but the idea is that they would create more, and then you can create your own maybe and create more challenges, things for you to do with the resources you have. Works a little bit differently than the multiplayer game, but it's nice to see that there is something for people to play by themselves, because I don't know, it's fun always messing around with Tetramino style things and figuring out puzzles, stuff like that. So it kind of blends elements of the multiplayer game with something that is more akin to a puzzle where you're min-maxing given a limited number of resources, specific resources. So that's Factory Floor. That's the solo mode. You already saw the multiplayer mode. So if you're somebody who has an affinity for rival companies trying to outproduce each other. The multiplayer, definitely something that you probably would enjoy. And if you just happen to like Tetraminos, Tetris, working hard for the money, not working hard for the money, understanding the means of production, controlling the means of production, getting your hands dirty, theoretically, give Factory Floors a chance. That's it for me. Thank you for watching. Take care. Wear a mask. Stay safe. Links in the description for Factory Floor on Kickstarter. Be blessed.